was a Christmas like no other. We affectionately called it the Christmas of chaos. It took place almost 20 years ago in Cape Breton. Let me set the scene for you. We had this brainstorm as my brothers and sisters that we would all head home to Cape Breton for Christmas this one particular time. About 20 years ago, we were all adults. So mom and dad, our parents, 7 kids, girlfriends, boyfriends, spouses, grandchildren. I think you know, if you're paying attention to the numbers, it's about 20 people. A small, modest home, 3 bedrooms, and 1 bathroom. So if you do the numbers, and you can imagine a morning, we were there Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day. The pandemonium, particularly in the morning as we all fought, it was a riot to try and get to the bathroom. Mealtime was a little chaotic. And then when it actually came to Christmas morning, with almost 20 people sitting around in a living room, tearing presents open wildly and madly. And the presents, the number was almost obscene. They weren't under the church, they weren't under the tree. They were around the tree. They were in each corner of the room. If you went into the living room and wanted to sit down, you had to move presents out of the way so that you could actually sit down. The number of presents was almost obscene. Now, my mother loved it, of course, because she had all 7 of her kids, plus her grandkids at home. You know, it warmed her heart. But I do remember leaving on Boxing Day after saying goodbye to everyone. I thought to myself, probably said to Patty, that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was 3 days of chaos, so let's never do that again. We're in our first week of our Advent season. The weary world awaits. Can we all relate to how the Christmas holidays are hectic, causing us to be somewhat weary? They are filled with the hustle and bustle and the busyness of it all. Christmas 2020 will be a Christmas like no other. For the moment, we have no sense of where we're going for Christmas. I mean, here we are less than 3 weeks, 4 weeks away from Christmas, and we have no sense of what the holidays are going to look like. A few days ago here in Nova Scotia, the provincial government announced new restrictions and new COVID requirements or protocols. So that basically what is happening here in what we call the HRM, or the Halifax region, is that people cannot gather in any greater than numbers of 5, including faith-based gatherings, which means Mass for us as Catholics. We have no sense of what Christmas is going to look like. These protocols and restrictions will be in place for the next 2 weekends, hopefully to be able to get us for the numbers to become just lower and under more control. I mean, when we look at the last 9 months, is anyone feeling weary and tired? But here's the reality. When we look at the lyrics from the Christmas carol, it says, "O Holy Night." And when we look at the lyrics, I think they are written for the Christmas of 2020. But even as we are weary, we can still rejoice. Because here is the truth. God is with us. Emmanuel. Even in the midst of COVID, of our weariness, of our exhaustion, of our tiredness, God is always present to us. Putting the pandemic aside for a second, we look at the fall of any normal year. It's a bit of a blur, isn't it? It starts in September, and we have Labor Day weekend. We have the necessity of getting kids organized and back to school. We, for most of us who work, need to get organized and back on a regular working schedule after the summer. That's September. October, we have Thanksgiving and Halloween. We rush through October as a bit of a blur. And then we get to November. We pause for Remembrance Day. And from Remembrance Day on, it's basically a sprint to Christmas. Those 5 or 6 weeks, we rush headlong, looking at the fall. It's from one event, one long weekend to another. And here we are, less than 4 weeks away from Christmas. Can anyone relate to the pace of this activity, this usual, typical fall of rushing from the 1st of September, basically to the 1st of January? We allow ourselves to be distracted. We get caught up in the hustle and bustle so that we miss the opportunity to witness and to experience what God is wanting to do in our lives as we approach Christmas and through the Advent season. Last week, a friend of mine asked me if we had put up our Christmas tree yet. We haven't even bought a Christmas tree. We haven't thought of a Christmas tree. I mean, Advent hadn't even started yet. So she looked at my face and saw nothing but horror on my face. Think, no, we haven't put up our Christmas tree. It's too early. We just want to jump from one thing to the next, from Labor Day to Thanksgiving to Halloween to Remembrance Day to Christmas. Let's slow down. Let's appreciate the season of Advent and as well get ready for Christmas. Because I think as a society, as a culture, we just hop from one thing to the next. We kick the Christmas tree to the curb on Boxing Day. We've missed the point entirely. So with all the rushing around, can Christmas 2020 be different? Because let's face it, we know one thing, that Christmas 2020 will be different in a negative way, as we are separated from family, from friends. Christmas holiday gatherings and parties, social activities, gone. But can Christmas 2020 be different in a positive way? Can we use the time to slow down and to really appreciate the season that we're in, Advent and Christmas Day? Our reality is that if we can't get the cases under control, if COVID-19 takes off, we will not be in this church for Christmas. We will not gather as a community of faithful to celebrate the birth of Christ. It was hard enough at Easter time when we couldn't gather for Easter. And now the possibility of a shutdown for Christmas is staring us in the face. Restrictions and protocols are going to limit how we go about our day-to-day activities and celebrate Christmas. Those were pretty much the words of Dr. Strang, who is our Chief Medical Officer here in Nova Scotia, in a press conference on Tuesday. He said, protocols and restrictions are going to force us to slow down. So can we use this time of Advent to prepare for Christmas? To slow down, to really engage with God and Christ and pray through the Advent season and for Christmas. Being focused or lack of focus on Christ is really what Jesus is talking about in our reading in our gospel reading this morning. Can COVID-19 be a gift to us? Jesus says in our gospel, the master of the house will come. He may find you sleeping. If we spend the weeks leading up to Christmas rushing around, we will be all exhausted come Christmas morning. In the midst of our busyness, we are distracted, caught unaware of the coming of Jesus. He reminds us that when he comes without notice, in the evening, or at midnight, or at cockcrow, or at dawn. 3 times, Jesus says to us, keep awake, be aware. In the Revised Standard Version, Jesus, or the translation says this: take heed, watch, and pray. Since we do not know when Jesus will come, we need to be on guard, prepared, awake, alert, attentive, ready, anticipating, and expecting his arrival. And we should expect Jesus to come. We know he will arrive at some point. By forcing ourselves to slow down, by spending some of our time in prayer, we will be refreshed, awake, and ready for when Jesus arrives. When I spent time preparing for this homily, the word expectancy really got to me. Expectation, just expecting. It reminds me of how parents, and particularly the woman through pregnancy, is expecting a child, and how beautiful that is. Mary and Joseph expecting Jesus and preparing for his birth. Parents are anxious and nervous. You wait with anticipation and with expectancy through the pregnancy period and at the birth of a child. The arrival of a baby changes things, doesn't it? The entire household routine is turned on its head as the parents make the child the focus and the priority of the household. What we should do for Christmas, right? Babies disrupt the lives of parents, don't they? The first couple of weeks are a total blur. To talk about weariness, I've seen Patty wearied. Parents, they just change the whole routine. The routine of the house slows down because the baby is the priority. The baby is the focus of the house. And we don't know when babies come through pregnancies, do we? When we hear the carol, O Holy Night, O Holy Night, we hear the angels sing, O Holy Night, the night that Christ was born. Jesus came in the middle of the night. When were your kids born? Both of our kids were born on the night watch, same as Jesus. Jenna was born after 1 a.m. and Patrick was born just shy of midnight. COVID-19 is going to force us to slow down, to do things differently. Christmas 2020 will be a Christmas like no other. Can we use the time that we have available to us wisely, effectively, efficiently, to prepare for Jesus, to prepare for Christmas morning? COVID is going to adjust how we go about celebrating Christmas this year. And if that is true, then let's use the gift that we have, that it's offering us, let's use it wisely. I have a suggestion to prepare for Christmas. I want to invite you to study with me a Bible plan, a YouVersion Bible reading plan. It's called A Weary World Rejoices. It's by Brittany Rust. And if you are a friend on YouVersion Bible with me, I've already sent you the invite. I sent it this morning. If you are on YouVersion Bible and you're not a friend, have a look at it. Just look it up. It's A Weary World Awaits by Brittany Rust. You can find it. It's 26 days, one day for each through the Advent season. It gives us a devotion or a reflection and a short scripture passage to spend time on in our daily prayer. And if you have friends that, if you're a friend of mine, but you have other friends on YouVersion Bible, send them the invite. Let's do this together. Let's join as a community of faithful and spend time in prayer with Scripture together as a community as we wait for Jesus' coming on Christmas Day. The passage itself and each daily Scripture and reflection, it'll take less than 10 minutes. It's time well spent. How do you get there? Good question. You can get the YouVersion Bible app either on Android or on the iPhone. You can go to their website. If you don't use the app, you can certainly get to the YouVersion Bible website. It's www.bible.com. That's very simple. Or our genius communications person, Matt, actually created a link. It is stbenedict.ca/wearyworld. Just go to our website, click on the connection, and you are in. Jesus, in Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest." We find rest in Jesus as we spend time in prayer with Scripture. COVID protocols are going to force us to slow down. Advent and Christmas 2020 will be very different this year. Let's not waste this opportunity. Let's spend it wisely as a community together in prayer with Scripture. Christmas 2020, let's spend it in expectation, in preparation, and anticipation, so that it will be a Christmas like no other.